The world is a scary place where danger lurks around every corner. These are the incredible true-life stories of people who faced their most desperate hour and lived to tell about it. Get ready to experience the thrill of a lifetime. You are about to witness the world's most amazing videos. Keyhole Point, Hawaii. Lisa Costello and a friend, cameraman Lee Tepley, get an unexpected up-close look at a pod of whales.
Incredible. God, what a day.
As they stop their boat, the whales remain close by.
They're very playful right now. They're hanging around us.
Yeah, I'd like to get in with a camera too. You might scare them away. I'd like to get the camera ready before we go in.
When Lisa decides to jump in for a closer look, Lee follows her with his underwater camera.
As soon as I got in, a very large pilot whale came right up to the camera and swam by, and then turned toward Lisa.
For a few brief moments, Lisa is face to face with the gigantic sea creature. Pilot whales typically shy away from people, so to be this close is extremely rare.
I was amazed. I thought, well, pretty soon he's going to swim away, and he just didn't swim away.
Suddenly, the whale attacks, grabbing Lisa's leg in his mighty jaws and dragging her toward the ocean floor.
And then all of a sudden I looked up, and I realized that I was 40 feet below the surface. I'm like, oh.
Lisa is at the mercy of the giant whale. She's not wearing an oxygen tank and she's running out of air.
I looked at him in the eye and I thought, my life's over, I'm going to die. There's no way I'll make it to the surface even if you let go now.
But just as Lisa is about to give up hope, the whale senses her panic and heads towards the surface.
And then all of a sudden, about the last 15 feet, you can see his body just bolt up to the surface. And I believe that that last 15 feet, that quick snap up to the water, was because he knew I was in trouble and knew I needed to get air.
Lisa now above water. The massive mammal releases her from his grip.
This whale almost drowned me. And at the end, he ended up saving me. I was really glad to be alive. Really, really thankful and glad to be alive.
Shelby Township, Michigan. The driver of this van, David McCarthy, is on the way to kill his ex-girlfriend, Kimberly Elin.
He's caused me a lot of terror, constant phone calls, threatening phone calls threatening my family.
As Kimberly and her family sit in their living room, they have no idea that their lives are in serious danger. Hell-bent on murder, McCarthy doesn't even notice that Officer Jason Schmittler is trying to pull him over for a traffic violation.
I thought it was going to be a typical stop. I was able to copy down the plate and I ran it on the computer inside the patrol car.
After a lengthy chase, McCarthy stops his van behind a row of parked school buses. Officer Schmittler pulls alongside, lowers his window and calls out to the suspect.
I told him to pull over. He looked at me, he said, "Who, me?" I repeated again to pull over. He said he would. I backed off, and that's when he decided to flee.
McCarthy is consumed with rage because Kimberly filed a restraining order against him. Now he's determined to track her down and get his revenge.
He had mentioned in one conversation that if he wanted to slit my throat, a piece of paper would not stop him.
McCarthy now knows that with the police following him, he has only one chance to carry out his murderous plan. As he approaches his ex-girlfriend's driveway, he slows down, then turns towards her house. Kimberly is shocked by what she sees outside her living room window.
At that point in time, seeing the van driving through the driveway and up through the grass, I knew that his intentions were to bring harm.
Then suddenly, McCarthy floors it. The £5,000 van smashes into the house. Kimberly and her family watch in horror as her ex-boyfriend crashes into their living room. They race into the kitchen, barely escaping with their lives.
He was aiming to hit us. My sister-in-law yelled, "Oh my God, he's coming through the living room." Where we're sitting now, we would actually be dead.
Once out of the patrol car, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was debris everywhere. People started to run from the house out the side door.
Fortunately, Kimberly and her family are unharmed. McCarthy, who is injured, escapes through a window in the rear of the house. Backup officers arrive with their guns drawn. They jump a fence and corner the suspect in a nearby parking lot. He is apprehended and brought to justice. Even though Kimberly has survived, she's still haunted by that terrifying day.
He has scarred us for life. Those scars will never heal. There's always something that will reopen them, and they're just as vivid as the day that it happened.
Chengdu, China. This giant panda is so playful, it's easy to forget he's a wild animal. But at over 350 pounds in weight, the friendly-looking creature is deceptively powerful. This lesson is about to be learned the hard way at the city zoo. One tourist makes the mistake of turning his back on the usually docile animal. The bear swipes at him, but he gets away. This man is not so lucky. Suddenly ferocious, the panda tries to pull him through the bars of the cage. Now he's caught in a violent tug-of-war with the wild beast. Luckily, other tourists have the courage to pull him away before he's clawed to death. This man may have lost his jacket, but at least he escaped with his life. Coming up, a TV cameraman gets the close-up of a lifetime when a speeding truck skids out of control. Plus, a terrified man is engulfed by a raging flood. Now, only a miracle will keep him alive. Then, later, a dark day this zookeeper will never forget. When the world's most amazing videos returns. Sydney, Australia. 6-ton trucks rocket around the raceway. These rigs are built for the long haul, not the fast track, so keeping them under control is a real challenge. TV cameraman Gary Hannaford positions himself in a prime location as a driver heads into the turn. Suddenly, the truck spins out of control and barrels straight toward Gary. Somehow, he manages to survive the devastating impact. But when the massive rig was bearing down on him, Gary thought he was a dead man.
The last fraction of a second, I actually had the vision of the truck going over the top. And I thought, well, you know, okay, it's all over.
If not for the concrete barrier in front of him, Gary would have been killed. But for this cameraman, close calls like this are all in a day's work.
In the job I do, you have to be in the extreme situation. Many, many times that I've had a near-death experience. But that's what makes it exciting.
Kratumban District, Thailand. A deranged suspect has climbed a high-voltage power pole on a crowded downtown street. After the utility company shuts off the electricity, a team of linemen cautiously approach the crazed man, hoping they can pull him to safety. But then the rescuer on the left makes a shocking discovery. One of the wires is still hot. 15,000 volts of electricity coursed through his body. Only his safety harness keeps him from plunging to the ground. His fellow rescuers don't know if he survived the electrifying blast. Working quickly, they lower their unconscious co-worker to a waiting ambulance. Then, the suspect who started it all surrenders and is taken into custody. Amazingly, the injured lineman survives his terrifying ordeal, thanks to his safety harness and the quick thinking of his co-workers. Tucson, Arizona. When a man and two teenagers try to drive through what they think is a shallow channel of water, they become trapped in a violent flash flood. Now they're clinging to the roll bar of their submerged pickup truck, standing on bales of hay to keep their heads above water. Gasping for air, they are battered by the rapidly rising floodwaters. Firefighters and rescue teams race to save them. The rescuers attach a black rope to the pickup truck to keep it from being swept away. They then turn their attention to the stranded man.
Because of the force of the water was so great that we couldn't get all the way over there, so we actually had to throw ropes to them.
The rescuers toss a life jacket to 16-year-old Rob Bertard. Shouting over the roaring water, they tell him to tie the rope around his waist. And then jump into the raging river. After a few tense moments, the firefighters finally pull Rob onto dry land. Time is running out for the other two victims. They've been trapped in the bitterly cold water for almost 2 hours. The rescuers throw out the lifeline to 15-year-old Chris Moyers. But the terrified teenager jumps too soon. Now they must struggle to pull him safely to shore. Thankfully, Chris makes it. Now there's just one man left, Kelly Bottle. He clutches the black safety rope that's securing the truck as the thunderous current pummels him with tremendous force.
One of the things I remember the most is the look on his face. He's scared, death is in his eyes. Death's knocking at his doorstep.
The rescuers throw Kelly a rope, and somehow he manages to tie it around his waist. But Kelly makes a terrible mistake. He wraps his rope around the black safety line that's securing the truck, and now he can't move.
Hey, he's got it around the black rope!
Several times he disappears under the surging water. Rescuers are afraid they've lost him.
He's gone, he's gone! Where's he at? Hold on! I got this!
Kelly is exhausted and appears to be giving up. The rescue looks hopeless.
Because of his state of mind and as cold as he just wasn't thinking about what was going on. And I think he'd resigned himself, to dying there that night.
Now there's no choice. In order to save Kelly, the rescuers must risk their own lives by plunging into the treacherous current. Then, one of the men makes a terrifying discovery. Kelly's legs are tangled in the rescue lines.
He has jump to go right to the bottom. He jumps right now.
The ropes meant to save Kelly's life are actually holding him underwater. He lifts his arm in a final plea for help. As the men close in to grab hold of Kelly, they are overwhelmed by the ferocious flood.
He's right there! Okay, we got one rescuer going down over there.
2 rescuers are swept downstream, while a third, Richard Coons, frantically searches for Kelly, who's now almost completely underwater.
The people on the east bank kept saying, "He's there, grab him, he's there, grab him." So I started grabbing into the water, and I actually found him underwater and pulled him up and held him against me to keep his face out of the water.
The 2 men are pounded by yet another huge swell.
At that point, I thought he had drowned, and I pulled him up, and his eyes were just real big, looking straight at me, and you couldn't tell that he was breathing or anything.
A second rescuer arrives to help pull Kelly up, just long enough for another man to reach them with a life jacket.
And with the help of the other 2 people, we were actually able to get his feet untangled from the ropes.
Quickly, they get Kelly into the life jacket and head back to dry land.
We floated him out of the back of the truck to float downstream with him and get out at a safe point.
Kelly's body temperature has dropped to a dangerously low level, and he's badly battered and bruised. But after 3 days in intensive care, he survives.
To this day, I can't thank them enough to go out there and do what they done to try to get me out of that vehicle. There was one time I thought I was gone. When I went in underwater, and I can remember seeing a flash, you know, everybody says you can see that light. And I seen the light, and I just said, it's not my time. I've got 2 kids that I gotta see grow up. Yeah, I really did cheat death that night. Really did. You know, and I owe it all to the rescuers. They did an amazing job.
Kowloon, Hong Kong. Flames engulf a 16-story office building, turning the high-rise into a towering inferno. The building was undergoing renovations when a spark from a welder's torch ignited a fire near an elevator. The elevator shaft becomes a chimney, shooting flames all the way to the top floor. The building's tenants think the smoke is caused by the construction. But to their horror, they learn that the fire is real. Now hundreds of helpless people are trapped inside, with no way out. Firefighters arrive on the scene to battle the blaze. But first, they must move parked cars by hand just to get their trucks close enough to the burning building. Stranded victims frantically call out to the rescuers below. Some are so terrified that the firefighters won't see them that they litter the sky with handwritten pleas for help. Sheer terror forces others to climb out of the windows onto narrow ledges. A frightened 15-year-old boy named Lee Soo-ki is hanging onto a 9th-floor balcony. Firefighters race to save him, but the rescue effort is nearly impossible. The flames are spreading too quickly. Meanwhile, frightened victims start to climb down the face of the burning high-rise. They crawl from window to window, trying desperately to escape the searing heat. Luckily, this woman makes it out alive. She tells her terrifying story.
I thought I was going to die because the fire was just on the upper level right above us. Heavy smoke made breathing very difficult.
Rescuers are able to get a ladder to this man. He climbs onto the underside and hangs on for dear life. Fortunately, he makes it safely to the ground. But Lee is still trapped on the ledge. Onlookers plead with him to hold on. Up above, with the fire raging out of control, several victims race to the roof. Rescue helicopter pilot Barry Collier sees them, but the thick black smoke makes a rooftop landing extremely dangerous.
Mike had already seen the people on site, so it was decided at that point to do a rescue. We didn't really know what we were going to get until we physically got there. It was a difficult environment to position an aircraft.
Barry hovers perilously close to the inferno and lowers a rescuer onto the rooftop. Just minutes before the roof is engulfed in flames, the last victim is pulled to safety. But what about Lee? Earlier, he panicked and jumped onto this corrugated roof. As rescuers are finally able to reach him, they discover he's still alive. Paramedics rush him to a nearby hospital. Incredibly, he survives his 60-foot fall with only minor injuries. 21 hours after it began, the fire is brought under control. As the smoke clears, the full measure of the disaster becomes evident. But thanks to the heroic efforts of the courageous firefighters, more than 110 lives are saved. Next up, an out-of-control biker rides up the back of a rival racer and crashes into the track. Then later, an exclusive interview with the man who was sucked into the engine of a jet plane and lived to tell about it. When the world's most amazing videos continues. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Veteran motorcycle racer Mike Bowers rolls up to the starting line. His 11-year-old son John is a member of his pit crew.
The reason I like working on the bike with my dad is because it brought us more together. I help him out, like I take him up to the line, I start him sometimes.
But on this day, Mike's race to the finish line becomes a race to save his life. In 20 years of drag racing at the Soul Brothers Nationals, no one has ever seen a wreck quite like this.
I thought he was dead. I didn't think I'd ever be able to see him again. I was just praying that he'd be all right.
Mike and his opponent, a first-time racer, roar down the track at 100 miles an hour. But as the rookie leans over his handlebars, his bike starts to wobble. He loses control and veers directly in front of Mike. Suddenly, Mike rolls up the rider's back, then smashes into the track. Incredibly, the man who caused this accident is uninjured. But no one knows just how badly Mike is hurt.
At that time, they didn't even know if I was alive or not. It broke my neck, it broke my wrist, and it broke my leg in 3 places. I wasn't moving.
Today, Mike is lucky to be alive, and he's ready to race again.
It's not the end of the story for Mike. I've always bounced back one way or another.
And no one is happier than his son, John.
Yeah, I look up to my dad. He's a great guy.
Gloucester, Ohio. A horse is walking along these tracks when she gets spooked, throws her rider, and slips through a gap on the railroad bridge. Her hind leg is now stuck as she dangles precariously over a shallow creek. When paramedic Ron Herbert arrives, he's not exactly sure what to do.
We're used to take care of people, you know, we're not used to taking care of animals. It was a large animal stuck in an odd position, and, you know, no one had no experience in dealing with a problem like that.
The horse, appropriately named Tuffy, struggles to free herself as her worried owner watches helplessly. The situation looks hopeless, but firefighter Andy Bukowski is determined to save the animal's life.
You know, We just wanted to try something to give the horse one last chance to live in the situation it was in.
First, the rescuers tried to relieve some of the weight on Tuffy's fragile leg by cutting her heavy saddle loose. Next, they take the ropes they'd wrapped around the horse and hook them to a winch.
Someone had mentioned that if we was able to get the weight off of her legs, she would be able to kick free, and then we'd worry about what happened after that. Just freeing her up was the biggest problem.
The plan seems to be working, but then the winch breaks off and falls into the water. The rescuers are running out of options.
Tuffy's chances was slim to none at that time.
The horse has been hanging upside down for more than 30 minutes, and she's exhausted from the struggle.
It was just giving up. The horse was just actually going to give up because it didn't know what else to do.
But the rescuers aren't willing to quit. It's a long shot, but they decide to reposition the ropes and pull the 1,500-pound horse up by themselves.
Everyone got hold of the rope and began pulling.
The horse shifts as the ropes are pulled taut. The men are worried. The creek is shallow, and a fall from this height could prove fatal. But suddenly, Tuffy kicks her leg free and falls. The rescuers use all their strength to hold the rope tightly, causing the horse to turn and land on her side. A lucky move that saves her life.
We never got to see Tuffy fall. We just heard the large splash. Everyone ran to a crack to peek down to see, and we seen her stand up, and that's when everyone stood up and cheered.
Tuffy's owner is thankful to see his beloved horse back on her feet. Remarkably, Tuffy lives up to her name. She survives, suffering only a sprained ankle from which she makes a full recovery. The rescuers are happy that they could help out.
We really made the difference in the life of that horse to where, it's probably being rode today and probably living a normal life today because of the people there that really cared so much about it.
Refugio County, Texas. Highway Patrol Trooper Andy Lopez pulls over a car with a broken headlight. But as he approaches the vehicle, one of the three men inside starts acting suspiciously.
He caught my attention pretty quick because he kind of gave me a stare such as if he was a little nervous, maybe scared about something.
Speaking in Spanish, Trooper Lopez questions the driver, but the passenger in the front seat does all the talking. Lopez knows that these men are heading toward Houston, not from it, as they claim, so he asks to search their vehicle. Even though the men agree, the veteran officer proceeds with caution.
You stop vehicles every day, left and right, and sometimes, to some, you may become complacent.
The driver presses a button, opening the trunk. Right away, the trooper has reason to be concerned.
As soon as I got adjacent, right close to where the trunk was at, I could smell a strong odor of marijuana.
The front seat passenger joins Lopez at the rear of the vehicle.
He reaches into the trunk as if trying to distract me and grabs a backpack and kind of tugs on it, as if he wants me to divert my attention over here and away from him.
As the trooper talks to the man, the other two suspects suddenly get out of the car. Now it's 3 against 1 on the lonely Texas highway. Lopez knows he's in trouble.
This has really gotten out of hand, and I need to take some control.
But then, without warning, the man in the plaid shirt reaches into his waistband and pulls out a gun.
What I'm thinking about only really at that time is surviving. I want to survive.
Lopez shoots twice, wounding the gunman. But as he comes back for a closer look, the suspect returns fire. Lopez knows he's in a fight for his life.
So I shoot over the car. I even shoot through the car. And he's shooting back at me. It's almost like you could feel him, and that's too close, buddy. That's too close for comfort.
As the suspect fires under the cover of darkness, Lopez is at a disadvantage, caught in the glare of his own headlights. He makes a break for his car to radio for backup. But Lopez is not out of danger yet.
And once I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw the shooter behind my car.
The trooper jumps out of his cruiser and heads towards the suspect.
But he starts shooting back at me.
Lopez takes aim, and a full-blown gun battle ensues. Finally, this trooper's nightmare is over. 2 days later, after an intensive manhunt, the other two suspects are apprehended. Still haunted by his terrifying ordeal, Trooper Lopez knows he did what he had to do.
Oh, it'll always be in the back of my mind. But I know and I feel that I did the right thing. It was either going to be me or him.
Comoro Islands, off the coast of East Africa. A honeymooning couple capture a horrific sight with their video camera. An Ethiopian air jetliner is flying dangerously low over the ocean. Suddenly, the plane breaks apart and crashes into the shallow water. Just 20 minutes after takeoff, 3 suicidal hijackers storm the cockpit and refuse to let the plane land. Now, out of fuel and running on only one engine, the pilot is forced to ditch in the ocean. Local residents race to the scene and mount a rescue effort. Amazingly, they find survivors. Among them is American businessman Ron McFarland, who remembers the pilot's terrifying last-minute warning.
There was an announcement by the pilot himself in very clear English: "We have run out of fuel. Please, staff and crew members, take the appropriate actions for a crash landing."
Another American, Franklin Huddle, couldn't believe what he was hearing.
It wasn't until the pilot came on that it became clear that something had gone horribly wrong.
Passengers panic as the plane plunges into the sea. Franklin describes the chilling moment.
That engine caught on the water. A hard bump. Then it really dug in. It was like a 30 or 40 mile an hour car accident. I said, uh-oh, I'm dead.
All Ron remembers is that it happened very fast.
The impact, the tearing up of the aircraft, the people throwing into the water, this is all less than 1 second.
The violent crash causes Franklin to black out. When he finally regains consciousness, he's still trapped in the wreckage. But his seat has been dislodged from the floor.
I woke up, I was floating in the water, my seatbelt still on. And I said, I'm alive. I looked immediately from my wife to my right, where she had been sitting. And she was gone. And I looked very quickly to my left, just like that. I started with my head, and I saw my wife sitting there. And I said, "Are you all right?" She said, "I'm okay."
The 3 hijackers responsible for this terrible crash were killed instantly. Looking at the mangled wreckage, it's hard to believe that 50 people could survive the tragedy. They owe their lives to the brave men and women of the Comoro Islands who reached out to help in their time of crisis. Coming up, the amazing video of the Navy crewman who was sucked into the engine of a jet plane. He survives and tells us of his terrifying ordeal. Plus, a 10,000-pound elephant sits on the head of a horrified zookeeper. Will he get out in time? Find out when the world's most amazing videos continues. Watch closely as a Navy crewman actually gets sucked into the engine of a jet plane. It's hard to believe that anyone could survive such a horrifying ordeal. But he did. A nationwide manhunt to find him ensued. A letter from one of our viewers brought us to Clinton, Indiana, where we found former Petty Officer J.D. Bridges. And this is his amazing story. 1991, the Persian Gulf. During Operation Desert Storm, the crew aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt is on full alert. In the early morning hours of February 20th, J.D. and a new recruit are preparing for the takeoff of an A-6 fighter jet. The trainee positions the front wheels of the plane and moves back. That's when J.D. steps forward to check his work. But he makes a big mistake.
I don't know why or what crossed my mind the way I entered the plane, but it was wrong because I should have been kneeling and I wasn't.
Watch again as J.D. moves in front of the engine. Suddenly, J.D. is sucked inside. Now he's in a desperate fight for his life. The helpless man struggles as he's pulled into the deadly blades of the massive jet engine.
It sucked off my helmet, it sucked off my goggles, it took my gloves off my hand, chewed my float coat, my shirt, and my jacket up all the way around me.
Then, in an amazing stroke of luck, J.D.'s helmet flies off his head and jams the engine's razor-sharp blades, causing them to slow down. A fellow crewman sees the engine malfunction and quickly signals to the pilot to shut it down. Just seconds before J.D. would have been ripped to shreds. Flight deck personnel race to the scene, expecting the worst, but to their amazement, J.D. claws his way out of the engine. Later, he recounts the terrifying moment for his fellow crewmen.
All the air was rushing through the intake, and it was stuck in my air. I couldn't get any air, and then I heard him shut down the engine, and I looked back, and I just started pulling myself out, and that's the last thing I remember.
This is a truly remarkable story of survival. J.D. knows that it's nothing short of a miracle.
Somebody was looking out for me.
An old Navy buddy of J.D.'s, Mike McDonald, witnessed the terrifying moment firsthand. Mike wrote the letter that made tonight's story possible.
God must have been holding on to his foot. Nothing happened to him. You know, minor cuts and bruises and scratches and a couple broken bones, and that's it. You know, it's amazing. It's got to be a miracle.
Guadalajara, Mexico. A young man is busy cleaning the elephant cage at a local zoo. With his head down, pushing his broom, he's completely unaware that one of the giant beasts is backing up. Suddenly, the 10,000-pound elephant sits on his head. The panic-stricken man struggles to pull himself free. Finally out, he gasps for air. Take another look at this amazing video. 1 minute, the man is happily working in the bright light of the elephant pen. The next, plunges into darkness. Although the man survived his terrifying ordeal, this is a shocking reminder of how dangerous and unpredictable wild animals can be. Next on the world's most amazing videos, a deep-sea diver gasps for air when a killer octopus tries to rip off his mask. And a race car bursts into flames and disintegrates into a million pieces. Plus, a Navy ship filled with tons of explosives slips off the dock and plunges into the sea. And an angry bull goes berserk and flies into the crowd. How will the terrified spectators survive? Find out next time on the world's most amazing videos.
feel like you need to calm down a bit after all that excitement? Well, check out our website, mychannel1.co.uk, and check out our brand new shows like the new series, which started this week. Next, though, double home video heroes.